So what's going on, guys? My name is MrDalekJD, and Zombie Chronicles has answered a lot of questions that we previously didn't have answers for. We've got lots of things answered as well as some new things introduced, but one of the main things that still isn't answered to this day is this moon loading screen right here that we got in October 2015 in Treyarch's Call of Duty Zombies A Brief History video. This was the first hints that we were getting some sort of moon remaster within Black Ops 3, I think it's fair to say, but there was a lot of changes on this particular loading screen to the one that we actually got within the remaster, which was a direct up-res of the original. Not only will we be comparing the two, but we'll also be dissecting and analysing the new moon screen. Now that we have it in such a high resolution, we can actually read what it says. If you do go on to enjoy this video at any point, do drop it a like rating if you want to support it, and let me know your thoughts on this in the comments section. Now, if we start looking at the alternate loading screen, and the obvious difference is this screen is taking place way before moon has even happened. As you can notice on the top right, in the original, you can notice the shadow of Samantha holding her teddy bear looming over the actual Griffin station. You can see the biodome, parts of the bridge, the main parts of the map. But in this alternate version, Griffin Station's not even built yet. Strangely enough, we still have the astronauts that are near Griffin Station, or the location of it, as you can see the bridge behind them, which are believed to be near the spawn area of the map. So it doesn't make sense how we don't see any of Griffin Station, but yet the astronauts still have parts of it behind them. And as with the thing that we already realized months ago, is the astronauts are moving away from the moon rather than going towards Griffin Station. There's originally 4 astronauts which are making their way towards this bridge area. You can see 3 in this sort of crevice and 1 above near this pyramid, but in this alternate there's only 2 astronauts and they're walking away from it rather than towards it. I don't really have an explanation for why the astronauts are going away from it, and I don't think we ever will, but the most curious thing to me is this bottom right, where we have this shadow of Samantha holding her teddy bear, which is usually cast over the moon. Now, the most interesting thing is we can recognize the background of this Samantha shadow, and it's actually Shangri-La. If we quickly take a look at the Shangri-La loading screen that's been reimagined for Black Ops 3 Zombie Chronicles, you can quite clearly tell that texture behind that shadow is 1,000,000% Shangri-La, which makes 0 sense because why is Samantha's shadow there? What is going on? If we go to the zombies timeline and try to help explain things, in 1940 is where a series of events happen, including Richtofen and Schuster conducting their first human teleportation test, where Richtofen gets teleported to the moon, as well as teleported to Shangri-La. The day after that is when Richtofen is worshipped by the natives of Shangri-La, and an altar is built in his name, and this is also where he encounters the focusing stone for the first time. But we don't ever go back to Shangri-La for 16 years later, where the Ultimus crew arrive to collect the focusing stone. But Jason Blundell has said to us quite recently that the order in which we experience things isn't always the order in which things happen, and that is very true, because Shangri-La actually takes place way before Kino de Toten, which is really confusing. 11 years before the crew go to Shangri-La is when Samantha is teleported to the moon and is drawn inside of the MPD, where she becomes corrupted by the dark ether. What we could potentially be seeing here is the effects of temporal rifts being created from our crew teleporting around through time and space, where we see an alternate version of moon taking place, where some of the events are happening slightly different to how they actually occur in the universe that we experience them in. But of course, the timeline follows things exactly how they do happen in the story, so for this alternate moon loading screen, it doesn't really give us any insight at all, and we don't have any dates either that can help us correlate to what's going on here. Maybe it's something that won't be explained at all until our next Treyarch game. We do know that the cycle continues, and from the one cipher we found in Revelations, it sounds like our characters are honestly trying to break it. If you have any ideas, then do let me know down below. Now we can move on to some fun little details hidden within the moon loading screen which you've never seen before. Now, comparing them both side by side, You know, they're pretty similar on the left side of the page, but there are a few differences, a few things missing, some slight different bits of text, which unfortunately is really low quality on the alternate version that I won't be able to pick out for you guys, but we can read most of it on this new one, which is awesome. Of the Zombie Chronicles one, you can clearly see Shangri-La behind it. We still have this little bit of paper that's been cut out, which in the original has not been cut at all. We can see that behind Shangri-La, as well as the other loading screens, there is another page of the sort of advertisements, which we can also see on this alternate version. Whatever the top left advertisement is, that's staying the same, something involving some sort of hot air balloon, but underneath it, something BU that is not there on this new one. We can quite clearly see that that is just a repeat of the control panel advertisement. Underneath it is the Pack-a-Punch one, but on this alternate one, there is quite a few new things which we don't have, which is really interesting. I don't understand why. Starting from the top left, we have this Ugly Sounds advertisement, which we can see is still there in the old one, but this weird caricature, which honestly reminds me of the candy bar from Nuketown, that's disappeared. That's not there anymore. And it says Ugly Sounds, and this is extremely hard to read, but I can see the words terrible, horrible, screams, and then something about Ugly Sounds recording. So I essentially think this is an advert for sound effects for Ugly Sounds. Underneath it, it has a Learn to Draw drawing course, which is $1.50, and it seems like in the alternate one, that Learn to Draw thing's not there, or it's like as if it's, hey, this is a box where you can just draw in whatever you want. There's a load of text underneath it, which isn't there anymore, and it's replaced with Acto Mortis, which is of this weird, kind of zombified looking human, to be honest. It's mentioned something about resuscitating your loved ones with this new service. Get your family back together for family gatherings. And this is a crazy device, which is called the 3101 device, and it doesn't have a name at the end, but that's $5. We now have this Nova 6 tank, which appears on both of them, but you can see the design on that old one looks really different. Nova 6 tank, get your own great addition to your household, the legendary Nova 6 gas can, depleted and sold for decoray. And then that's cut off there. So it's a depleted Nova 6 for $1.95. Now, underneath that, on the old one, I don't even know what it mentions, something about defense, something about self-defense, but we don't have that on this new one. Instead, we have a $50,000 cash coupon, exact banknote, have fun with your friends, just order our catalog. Seems like whoever this is really wants to supply all this stuff, and it gets so intriguing as we read on. We got something for brine shrimp, which is on both of them, suspended in crystobiolysis for your reviving enjoyment. Just add water and our salt pack and you will enjoy live shrimp in a few days. Not edible, or maybe they are. Brine shrimp for $1.50. Now again, underneath, we don't know what it says on the old one, but this is replaced with zombie comedy. Some of the greatest jokes from the undead. That is $2. And then underneath we have that free catalog, 1500 novelties, which has been cut out on this new one, but on the old one, it's still there, which is really strange. Now, if we go working our way up top, we have While They Last, which is again something we have on the old one, but there's no image for it. Now it's replaced with what looks like a sort of rhino or an animal with horns, which could be from Dead Ops. Fun time for the professional special events. Full, unnecessarily complex, but nevertheless entertaining. Interesting. We have this surprise monkey underneath. Amaze your friends with this great but explosive, impervious to water. It is dangerously beyond belief. Lure zombies, then let them get blown away. Pretty damn sick, right? Underneath we have this deluxe electric shock, which I believe is a shock color. Coiled this hose and be exposed to pain and surprise. One of many collectibles in the Tambucks Fudgely catalog. Get yours now. Lambert Fudgely Co. accepts no responsibility for the use or misuse of this item. We sell this item with no reservation. So this could be a little insight into the sort of things that maybe Group 935 were using. We're not too sure what even this catalogue even is supposed to be symbolizing. Underneath in the original, something completely different, which I can't make out at all. But in this, we have therapeutic apparatus, and you can see an image of what looks like some sort of weird bomb. It's described as a health bomb, and it says to enjoy your something running something device. It's so hard to read that text with that checkerboard behind it, but that costs $4. And underneath we have this Xenon belt. Where is my money? You may ask yourself, with this image of a belt. We don't have that in the original either. There's nothing really that we can make out on this at all. And we keep going down, we can see the Casimir mechanism, which is so intriguing that we see this visualized right here. And it says, matter transformed. Send your... I can't work out what that bit says, but it says gluon radiation now available to the masses. Take advantage of the quantized field. And there's offering for a sample kit of this, which is crazy. And here's the weird thing, because in the original, if we see here, it looks like a set of coordinates which would relate to a map and would point us to somewhere in the world. I tried googling this whilst researching this video, and these coordinates don't exist. If you guys can work this out and you can get this to make sense, because it looks like coordinates because it's got north times by east on two different sets of coordinates, you'd think that would point to somewhere in the world, but I couldn't make these out to have any sort of sense because that east doesn't make sense. But in the alternate, there's nothing there. It just says Samantha, which is extremely weird. So what if that code possibly means Samantha? I don't really know. And then on both the original and the alternate, we have this idol, which looks like one of the sort of things we see in Shangri-La, which is to show you how Pack-a-Punch is worked and if people are stepping on the right stones to open that. Now underneath, we have this Tambor Fudgely Co., which has a department, which has an address, which I'm pretty confident is actually Treyarch's own offices, which is pretty damn hilarious. That's a nice little nod there. Working our way back up, we have the control panel, which is of course something we see in Ascension for the Lunar Landers, and it says authentic replica of Lunar Lander control panel, 100% space age, impress your friends with your pilot skills, made of low impact plastic, it is harmless if used as a striking weapon. Do not aim at eyes or people, animals or other living things. Zombies, okay. That's hilarious, man. Underneath we have Pack-a-Punch, which is again exactly as we see it in the alternate, and it's funny they're like selling all these different things. It's really entertaining. It says Pack-a-Punch machine, savings bank, holds coins of all denominations and origins. Made of die-cast aluminum, secure lid, may light up, batteries not included. So this is like a Pack-a-Punch bank rather than the actual machine itself, just a little mini bank to hold your coins in. Now the next thing we have is Gun Mule, which of course is a reference to Mule Kick. This is again on the alternate as well. Dispenses 3 toy guns, pull the ear and out comes the gun. That's so cool, man. Underneath we have a balloon, which again is in the alternate. Expandable natural rubber bladder, shaped to conform to the contained gas decorative. So yeah, that's not exactly what you'd want to give to a child, because that's a pretty disgusting balloon. Now next thing is really interesting because this is not here on the alternate, at least we can't make it out. And this is Richtofen Center for Clinical Research, currently seeking men, women and others for prolonged clerical tests. Results will vary, waiver required. So this could be a great reference to when Richtofen was testing on different test subjects like he did in Siberia as well as at the Derice facility. Underneath we have the pocket teleporter, which is not in the alternate because it mentions something about plants, which is really interesting. It says get going, go anywhere through the ether, transport yourself, 99% guaranteed, stuff happens, reintegration, and you can see a little pocket teleporter right there, which could almost be the sort of workings of the time bomb, as it does seem like a nice little sort of pocket thing where it kind of does teleport you depending on where you've placed it, and it does take you through time and space technically. Anyway, underneath we have a vending machine bank, which is again the same on the alternate. Speed cola. Qualify decast bank, looks just like a speed cola machine. Put in the coin and watch it light up. Batteries sold for $3. If we move back up again, we have such an awesome thing here, which of course is the front of the MPD, and we get a name for this thing now. It says sensational, not dissimilar to the Aztec and Mayan calendars. The Mythos disc defines the celestial patterns for your practical and magical purposes. Sipakti, Efekati, Kali, Kutzpalin, Kotul, etc. are represented in non-visible forms. Abide by its magical powers and use. Wow, that's pretty damn cool. Next one we have underneath is the amazing two-way matter transference, which is not there in the alternate. Convert your appliances into matter transference devices with this simple kit. Trim to any size and apply. For greater results, use multiple kits. And you can see you can buy like a pretty small kit and then a large kit, and the price difference is staggering. And we have these images of monkeys which are like being teleported, which is really interesting because we only see those a few times in zombies, so that's really cool. What we have underneath is the shrink ray, which is something we saw a lot of references for in World at War on the blueprints of Doris, and this is on the alternate, but it's called World's Smallest instead. Fun for this whole family. Shrink and stretch ray gun. Reduce your friends and enemies to a manageable size. Great during arguments or zombie attacks. From the same minds that brought you the Cantaloupe viewing device, this one instrument will bring you hours of enjoyment and vengeance, not for children younger than 5. So this is, of course, the baby gun from Shangri-La, which is really, really cool to see. And it's just loads of Treyarch humor in here. Next we have is director chair. Now in the alternate, we have a big face of George Romero instead, which is really interesting. And that's actually the director mask that's being sold rather than the chair, which is really interesting that they're going to be selling the mask of a zombified director. But for this director chair, get in there. Your first step to becoming a director. You can now say with certainty that you have sat in a director chair. Pretty damn sweet. We have this little advert here for Speed Cola, and just like always, it says speed up your life. And the design is no different on either of these. The next one is Space Ice, and this text is so small, I honestly can't work it out. So we're going to have to skip that one. The next one we have is Flesh Eating, which is not on the alternate. It says plants that will eat you. Yeah, large, dangerous, and beautiful. This could honestly be a reference to Division 9 and their work on experiments on plants and living things within Zetsubo and Shinonuma, which is pretty damn exciting that years later we finally have a reference to something like that. Underneath we have the Vril device, which is the golden rod, one of a kind, find and use Earth 1. That's all it says for the description, and within the alternate one, it's just not there at all. I can't even read what was supposed to be there, but it's not there. We then have this Thunder Gun, which is the Thunder Gun in the remaster, but in the alternate, it just says Real Gun, which is really weird. So there it says Authentic Thunder Weapon. Shoots a blast that will knock you on your... And that's it. They didn't even finish the sentence. But maybe what this references is you can buy an authentic Thunder Gun, but in this alternate, you're buying the actual real thing. Like, no authentic remake of it. It is the actual one, which is really interesting. Underneath, we have gamma ray specs on both, but you can actually see these on the remaster, and that text is really small. I'm going to try my best to read it. It says, seeing through things is simply overrated. Use these specs to see through people's souls. Manufactured in a small... I honestly can't read that, but it says manufactured by a small something by Mystics. That's so weird. You can see people's souls with these gamma ray specs. That's really crazy. And then to finish it off, we have a shot of an astronaut. And unlike the astronauts we see on the other side of the page, this one is not facing a different way. This is both facing towards us with one leg, possibly the astronaut that we see within the moon trying to attack us, of course, because it does walk very weird, doesn't it? And then to finish it off, we have this used data tapes. Multi-use, convenient and cheap. Let your imagination run wild. And we also have that on the alternate. So that's going to finish off looking at all of the things that were never explained in Moon, thanks to these high-res versions of the loading screens, as well as that alternate one, which still doesn't have an answer. We don't have any ones like this. This is the only one that we've seen that is as close to the real, authentic loading screen that just is alternate and doesn't have any explanation. If you guys have any ideas, make sure to drop it down below. But if you enjoyed this video and you made it to the end, give yourself a pat on the back. Be sure to smash that thumbs up button, subscribe for more awesome content like this, and I'll catch you next time.